When I was a child, I thought life was simple. In my mind, everything was easy. My father had money, and I never had to worry about anything. We lived in a big house, and there was always enough food. I didn't understand the struggles of life, the importance of money, or what it meant to work hard. All I knew was that I didn't have to do anything for what I wanted. If I wanted a new toy, I asked my father. If I wanted to go to a fancy restaurant, I simply said it, and it happened. Life was like a dream I didn't realize wasn't everyone's reality. My friends often told me that I needed to start thinking about the future. You need to study hard, they would say. You need to work and save money for when you grow up. But I didn't listen to them. I laughed at their concerns. Why should I study or work? I already had everything I needed. My father was successful, and that was enough for me. I thought life would always be like this. Every day, I woke up late. I never had to rush anywhere. I took my time to get out of bed. My breakfast was always served in bed, with fresh fruit, pancakes, and orange juice. I would eat slowly, watching TV for hours, flipping through channels, wasting time in front of the screen. Occasionally, I would meet up with friends. We would go to expensive restaurants and enjoy gourmet meals. We wore the latest fashion, drove the nicest cars, and lived without a care in the world. Life seemed perfect. The idea of working didn't cross my mind. I didn't even know what it meant to earn money. My father took care of everything. He paid for everything: my clothes, my food, my entertainment. If I needed something, I simply asked. If I wanted to go on a trip, I went. If I wanted a new phone, I got the latest model without thinking twice. My father worked hard, but I never considered how much effort it took. All I saw was the end result, the money, but I never thought about the work behind it. Every day felt like a holiday, but I never understood that holidays don't last forever. I was living in the present, but the future seemed like something far away. I never thought about the future because the present was so enjoyable. I didn't have to worry about anything. My father's success gave me everything I wanted. One day, however, my father called me into his office. I could tell something was different. He was acting strange. Normally, he was a kind and cheerful man. He would joke around, always smiling, but this time, his face was serious. "Son, we need to talk," he said, motioning for me to sit down. I sat down in front of him, a bit confused. I smiled, thinking it was just another conversation. "Yes, Father?" I asked, expecting him to tell me something simple. But he didn't smile back. His face remained stern, and his voice was calm but firm. "You're not a child anymore," he said. "It's time for you to start thinking about your future." I laughed at him. "Father, I have everything I need. I don't need to worry about the future. He shook his head. No, my son. You have everything because I work hard. But life is not always going to be this easy. One day, things could change. I didn't understand. I thought he was just being overly cautious, but his serious tone made me feel a little uncomfortable. I smiled and said, "Don't worry, Father. Nothing will change. Everything is fine." But he didn't smile. He just looked at me with concern, as though he knew something I didn't. "We'll see," he said quietly. I didn't know what he meant by that. I thought he was just in a bad mood, or maybe he was simply overthinking things. I got up from the chair and left his office, eager to meet my friends. I went out with them, had fun, and spent money without a care in the world. I didn't even think about with my father. The next day, I woke up as usual. Late, of course. I stretched and grabbed my phone. There were messages from my friends. They wanted to go out and have fun. I smiled and quickly got ready. I put on my best clothes, sprayed on some expensive cologne, and walked down the stairs. But when I entered the living room, I saw my father waiting for me. This time, his face was even more serious. "Sit down," he said. I sighed, irritated, but I did as he asked. "Father, I have plans today. I'm meeting my friends." He didn't care about my plans. His voice was calm but firm. "You are not a child anymore," he said again. "It's time for you to understand what life is really about." I rolled my eyes, frustrated. "Father, I know about life," I said, trying to brush him off. He shook his head. "No, you don't," he replied. "You think you do, but you don't. Come with me." I didn't want to go with him, but I had no choice. I followed him outside, wondering where we were going. He walked to his car, and I got in, still confused. The city looked different that day. I had never paid attention to the people around me. The streets were full of workers. People walking quickly to their jobs, vendors selling fruit, and street cleaners sweeping the sidewalks. We drove through the city, and I started to notice things I had never seen before. The people didn't look like me. They didn't have the luxury of living carefree lives. They worked hard every day. From the moment they woke up until the moment they went to bed. After some time, my father stopped the car in a part of the city I had never been to. The streets here were dirty. The buildings were old, and the air felt thick with exhaustion. The people here didn't look rich. They looked tired, worn down by the hard work they did every day. My father pointed to a man selling fruit by the side of the road. "Look at him," he said. "He wakes up before dawn, works all day without rest, and does it all to feed his family. He doesn't complain. He doesn't take a break. He works because that's how life is for him." I watched the man, trying to understand what my father meant. He didn't seem sad, but there was something about the way he worked that made me realize how different his life was from mine. I had never seen someone work so hard for something as simple as fruit. My father pointed to a small shop across the street. Inside, an old woman was sewing clothes. She has been doing this for 40 years, my father said. She doesn't have much money, but she works every single day. She has no choice. She works to survive. I looked at the woman. Her hands were moving quickly, stitching the fabric with skill, but her face looked tired. She didn't stop. She couldn't afford to stop. And for the first time in my life, I realized how little I had thought about people like her. I had always focused on myself and my own comfort, never considering the struggles of others. My father turned to me. "Do you understand now?" he asked. "Life is not easy for everyone. Some people work hard every day. They work to survive, to provide for their families. But you've never had to work for anything. You've never known what it's like." I felt small. For the first time, I realized how lucky I was to have everything handed to me. But I also felt guilty. I felt guilty for never understanding the hard work it took to get what I had. I had been living in a bubble, unaware of the struggles of those around me. We got back in the car, and my father didn't say anything. He drove in silence. While I thought about everything I had just seen, my mind was spinning. I had never realized how different life could be. The man selling fruit, the woman sewing clothes. These people had to work for everything. They didn't have the luxury of living carefree lives like I did. They didn't have a father to take care of them. They had to rely on their own hard work. After a long drive, my father stopped the car again. This time, we were in front of his office building. I had been to this building before, but only to ask for money. I never stayed long. I never paid attention to what happened inside. But now, I looked at the building with new eyes. It wasn't just a place where my father worked. It was a place full of people working hard to make a living. My father led me inside the building. The moment we walked in, I felt the energy. People were walking fast, moving from one desk to another. Phones were ringing non-stop. The office was filled with papers, reports, and deadlines. It was chaotic, but it was also a place where things happened, where decisions were made. I had never seen this side of my father's work before. He led me to his office and sat down. "Do you know what I do every day?" he asked. I shrugged. "You work, father. You manage the company." He nodded. "Yes, but do you know how hard I work?" he asked, his voice low but serious. I didn't know what to say. He continued. "I wake up early every morning. I make big decisions. I solve problems. I keep this company running. And I do all of this for you, for your future." I looked around the office. I saw tired faces. Some people were on the phone, trying to close deals. Others were sitting at desks, writing reports or answering emails. It was stressful. It was overwhelming, but it was necessary. My father worked hard every day so I could have the life I had, but I had never considered the effort it took. Then my father handed me a small notebook. From tomorrow, you will work here, he said. I laughed, thinking he was joking. Me? Work? I asked. But my father didn't smile. Yes, you will start from the bottom. You will learn what it's like to work hard, to earn money. You will understand the value of what you have. I couldn't believe it. But I don't need to work, I said. I have everything. My father shook his head. You do need to work, because one day I might not be here, and then what will you do? I was silent. I had never thought about life without my father. I had always relied on him. I had never considered the future or how I would survive on my own. But now it was clear. My father was right. One day things could change, and when they did, I would have to be ready. The next day, my life changed. I started working at my father's company. It wasn't easy, but it was the start of something important. I began to understand the value of hard work and the importance of taking responsibility for my future.